Firstly, thank you so much for registering for this course. If you're already a follower or a friend or a client of mine, then thank you for continuing to support me. It means a lot to me. But if you're new and have basically never heard of me before, then I'm a little extra excited to have you here. Because I love meeting new people, even though I'm a strong introvert myself, and I especially love meeting new people with the same kind of interests that I have. Secondly, this particular video is simply my introduction video, where I talk about myself for a few minutes so that you can get to know me if you want. There's nothing in here that you need to hear about in order to understand the rest of this course. So if you're impatient and just want to get started, then you can feel free to skip ahead and move on, or just make me talk quicker or whatever. But if, however, you want to get to know me a little bit before you start listening to what I teach, then stick around. So my name, as I guess you might have already caught, is TJ Guttormsen. Or if you're Scandinavian and can understand it, Torkel Guttormsen. I was born and raised in a small town of about 20,000 people in northern Norway called Harstad. And I lived there until I was done with high school. So you'll have to excuse what I'm sure will be my many grammatic mistakes as we go through this course, as English is actually my second language. Anyway, after a year in the US as an exchange student when I was 18 and a year in the Norwegian Air Force, I started university in a city called Trondheim. After 6 years of studying, I graduated in 2009 with a bachelor's degree in psychology, a teacher's degree in psychology, and a master's degree in pedagogy, which is the science of teaching and the science of learning. It's safe to say that I'm a nerd and more than a little obsessed with psychology and communication. And for most of my life, up until my mid-20s, I was a very shy and timid guy. I grew up with a wonderful family, 2 loving parents and a little sister who is one of my best friends to this day, and I wasn't lacking for anything except confidence. Generally speaking, I felt uncomfortable around people, especially strangers, and I would retreat into books, computers, and individual sports or whatever, and spend very little time engaging with people that I didn't already know very well. I had a handful of good friends, and by my mid-20s, I'd had 2 relationships, romantic ones, but although I loved the friends that I had, I definitely didn't have the social or the romantic life that I wanted. It wasn't until halfway through my university studies that I realized that if I wanted things to change, well, then I had to change the way I did things. So together with a dear friend of mine in class, I started exploring self-development. We studied and practiced and experimented. It became an obsession for me. I couldn't stop, I couldn't get enough, I couldn't stop going, and we wrote blogs and we participated in discussion forums and we threw ourselves into any opportunity that we had to learn from everyone and anyone. And once I started learning the kind of stuff that I'm going to share with you in this course, everything changed dramatically. My social confidence skyrocketed. I started to create the kind of relationships, both socially and romantically, that I'd always wanted. And it all happened without me as a person actually having to change at all. You see, my values, my desires, my aspirations, they're pretty much all the same as they were before those days. But with my new understanding of psychology and my new social skills and social confidence, I was now able to create the results that I wanted almost whenever I wanted them. And that's what I want to help enable you to do through the content of this course. That's what I do with all my clients. The ripple effects of learning all this quickly spread into the rest of my life too. In January 2009, after studying under my own coach for a year and a half, I launched my own workshop and coaching business together with class. Within 6 months after that, I had my own radio segment during prime time on a national radio station, and I had my own weekly column in Norway's biggest online newspaper. In a country with only 5 million people, 250,000 people listened to the radio show I was on every day, and 300,000 people visited my blog while I was writing for that newspaper. Since then, I've made over 100 national media appearances. I've lost track. I've done it across TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, and from then on, my full-time obsession became my full-time profession. I've published books, I've gotten to travel the world, I've spoken, taught, and coached on 4 different continents, and I've been lucky enough to connect with thousands of people over these topics. Today, I live in a beautiful home in Las Vegas, together with my incredibly wonderful wife, in the kind of relationship that young me didn't think was possible for someone like me. And I get to spend my days with people I love, and I get to talk about my biggest obsession, psychology and communication, for a living. I've been doing this for over a decade now, and I can't wait to keep at it for, well, the rest of my life. So that's my story in a nutshell. welcome to my world, and let's move on to the good stuff, shall we?